Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. As always, to do this show, I need the gentleman of mixed martial arts to help me out. That is the gentleman here, the gentleman, Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing quite well, Josh. It's some crazy times right now happening in the world of MMA. Not only was it a busy week going on that occurred. It's an even busier week going on this week. But we found out today that the co-main event for UFC 272 between Rafael Dos Anjos and Rafael Fiziev is now off, as Rafael Fiziev has COVID. So that fight is now scrapped, and it's like every lightweight and their mother are trying to get in at this opportunity to fight Dos Anjos.
Yeah, that sucks. But what is it? Yeah, 155. I've seen a whole bunch of people saying. I even saw Paul Felder that was a possibility. I don't know if that's for
I
real
think
or
he's
not.
just having fun with the situation,
Is he? Yeah.
but he seems like he's getting in shape for like a triathlon or something. But he's like, well, if I got to save the day again, so I mean, hey, why not? You did fight Dos Anjos and save the day back in November of 2020, but yeah, everyone's just clamoring for this opportunity.
Yeah, why not? Right? It's a former champ, big name, good card, right? So I would understand why.
Well, the one thing that now has got everyone talking is that Islam Makachev and his manager there, Ali, have said that they'd be willing to take the fight at 170 pounds. I mean, it's supposed to be lightweight. They'd make it, they won at 170. Then Dos Anjos tweeted that he'd make 165, seeing as, Ali and Eagle FC, they have a 165-pound division, saying they created a division like that. So why not? I don't think Makachev takes the fight, especially on how short notice and how dangerous an opponent that Dos Anjos is. But they're at least getting the name of Makachev still out there after his big win on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the only thing Makachev has to gain out of that one, I think, is payday. Another one, right? Like, I'm pretty sure he's after Gaethje, the next guy that's going to fight for the belt, right?
Yeah.
And so either you wait a little bit or you take this fight, and I think he would win the fight, but it's still a risky fight. Dos Anjos is no joke, right? So it's yeah, I don't know. I don't see them doing it, but if they do, then hey, man, that's credit to him. That's a gangster move to fight back-to-back weekends, and two big wins like that would be huge.
Well, if you don't think Makachev's taking the fight, like I as well don't see it. Do you see anyone actually stepping up on the really short notice now, like 5 days, to step up and fight Rafael Dos Anjos? Because, as you said, that's a tough, tall task to take on someone like RDA in a fight that, if you win, obviously the risk was worth the reward, but a loss doesn't really help you out. And for RDA, I mean, it doesn't help him other than I guess he gets to stay on the card.
I don't think you're going to see anybody in the top tier step up to fight. You might see somebody in the middle ranks, and I'm sure all of the lesser knowns in the UFC will be. Everybody would want it, right? Want to make a name, so you could have that. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see anybody like like a Poirier or Makachev or somebody like that take it right now. I think it'll be someone that's a little bit more mid tier if they do it.
Yeah, as this news kind of broke today, where we found out, okay, so Fiziev is out. I've seen Renato Montoya say that he would like the fight, but he's in Brazil, so kind of tough to get him there. But I thought that would be probably a good opponent. But I just feel bad for RDA, because it's like there are options, but none of them make a lot of logistics sense right now. I just feel bad for this guy, because now this fight was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago. It didn't happen because Fiziev couldn't get a visa. That was taken care of. And then COVID, when you think you're getting rid of it, it just comes back and just bites Fiziev here. And he can't fight. His manager said he's no longer really got major symptoms. The fever has passed, but he's in no condition to fight for Saturday.
Yeah, it sucks, man. We should just stop testing everybody, be how good, we wouldn't really hear about it anymore as much. But yeah, I mean, it's been the curse for the last 2 years of how many fights have fallen through from COVID, right? So it's been a hurdle for every promotion.
It's such a bummer though for RDA because, like as we said, he had this opportunity. He's like apparently trying to close the sale of his house in like a couple weeks, and like March 15th, he said today was the date. And so obviously that money that he'd make from there would be great for the future. But now, and he's as he's moving to pretty much to the States from Brazil, and I don't know if he'll fight. Hopefully, I mean, crazier things have happened. People have stepped up on short notice. Even just look last weekend. But as you said, Josh, it's a tough task to take on someone like RDA on that short notice.
Yeah, maybe you got a Bobby Green again, do three times in a row.
Yeah, if Bobby Green gets that, you can instantly put his plaque in the UFC Hall of Fame for saving 2 cards in a row. But yeah, Makachev's the one everyone's like talking about. But like you said, I don't think it's going to happen. But he was the talk after a very impressive performance last Saturday at UFC Vegas 49 in the main event, where Bobby Green, I thought coming into the fight had potential to win, especially could keep it standing, but that Dagestani wrestling, that grappling, it's just too much. He was able to get the fight to the ground and just really pummel his way to that TKO finish against Bobby Green. Some thought maybe it was an early stoppage, but I didn't see Green really defending himself, mounting away. And Makachev, once again, he's stepping up and getting opponents and getting a card switched on him here, or a fastball thrown at him with a new opponent. But he's passing these tests with flying colors, and more importantly, he's getting finishes. I think that's 4 straight finishes for Makachev now, as he waits to probably be the next contender for the UFC lightweight championship.
Yeah, man, he's definitely the real deal. And with Bobby Green, I mean, there's always a chance the guy will win, right? He's a great striker, Bobby Green. He's a great fighter all around. But yeah, if like I said, if he gets it to the mat, then there's a very good chance he can finish him there, or just pound him for 3 rounds or 5 rounds, whatever it was. So yeah, once he clinched him, and just he was tenacious on that, didn't give him any space. And then once he got the takedown, the double leg, it looked like he was like worlds above him strength wise, even just like, take this position, take this, take full mount, take his back, and just pound him, flatten him. And yeah, man. And he made a good fighter look novice, really. You know what I mean? So yeah, he looks good, man. He's, yeah, those, the Dagestanis, like when they get a hold of you, it's a world of hurt for so many people.
Well, I was seeing after obviously Makachev's big win against Bobby Green, that already people are kind of, the betting odds already, if Oliveira were to fight Makachev, say in the coming weeks or so, that Makachev's the favorite, and he may as well be. Like, he's a really talented fighter, but I just feel like once again we're just not giving the respect to the guy that's the champion, that's beaten Michael Chandler, not only beaten Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier, finished them. Like, he is the champion. We still kind of have to give Oliveira his due, though the flip side of that, this feels very similar to what Makachev's protege went through in Khabib, where you could just only sense it was a matter of time before he was the UFC champion.
Yeah, most likely. I like to see him. I mean, if you don't have to be battle tested, then that's even better. But yeah, I like to see him have to kind of push through some adversity in a fight, and just kind of see, and you got to test his mettle there. But hey, man, if you can walk through to a fight and deal with no adversity and keep winning like that, and that's the goal, really. You don't. So yeah, all the credit to him. I think good chance that I think he has a tougher matchup with Gaethje than he does with Oliveira, to be honest, just stylistically. But yeah, either one, that's it's a tough fight for anyone.
It's definitely a tough fight. I think what I'd like to see is, I would like to see Makachev maybe fight someone like the Beneil Dariush, who he was supposed to fight, or someone of that level. Like, sure, the win against Bobby Green is nice, but he's only taking that fight on like a week's notice. Like, there's not a real enough time to get adjusted to, or a proper camp for someone of the caliber that Makachev is. So, and I think we want to see, I guess, Makachev tested by someone in that upper tier of the lightweight division before we're handing out title shots. Even Dana White today said that he'd like to see the Dariush Makachev fight happen at some point.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I want to see him in there with a top guy, right? Even like a Chandler and him would be cool too. That would be a good fight to watch. Yeah, it's just a question now. Do you fight? Do you take that risky fight, or do you wait and fight the winner? But you got to sit out longer, right? And so that's, I guess, the question and what they want to do. If he wants to be a little more active, then wait for Dariush and have that fight, or just sit out and wait for your title shot.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening in this lightweight division, especially now with this co-main event between Fiziev and RDA off of this upcoming weekend's UFC 272 card. And, lightweight kind of very talented division last year, but you really just kind of saw the top guys really just fight each other. And I thought bantamweight had maybe overall year, but lightweight's really working its way back up to showcasing itself as maybe the top division in MMA. Like, it didn't go away, but the shine's starting to be put back on it.
Yeah, I've always thought lightweight was probably the deepest division in MMA. Bantamweight, I think, over the last 3 years has kind of either taken the title there or is right on par with them. But yeah, lightweight's always been stacked.
Yeah, and it's the shine is now once again being risen on that division yet again. And then, you know what I thought for this fight night card? Once again, these fight night cards, first of all, the 4 o'clock start in the East Coast, huge win, I think, because we get through them pretty quickly. Like, back-to-back weeks where the main events are over by 9 p.m. Eastern. That's a huge win, I think, for a viewing fan in the East Coast. But the cards have been really good. Like, the fights have delivered better than we thought they would. Like the co-main event, Wellington Turman taking on Misha Serkinov in a round where I thought the first round Serkinov survived the choke attempt, had a great flurry looking to get that finish on Turman. And then when Turman got the fight back to the ground again, it was like Misha just was too calm in the guard position, and then Turman just pulled that armbar out of nowhere.
Yeah, it sucks for Misha for sure. He had him on his back, and I was worried about that choke looked like he might have been able to pull it off, but and then Misha, I think, stole the round that second half and just did a lot of damage, a lot of good ground and pound, and then man, that's it. That's all it takes is one second. If you're a little bit lackadaisical, but I mean that was a nice setup too. It was very quick, very sneaky. Just had the arm out, switched his hips, and right away was applying pressure. But yeah, man, that's credit to that guy because Misha's a very good grappler.
Priscilla Cachoeira won a decision over Jian Kim. I thought Kim won the fight. A lot of people thought Kim won the fight, and if you look at the damage on the face of Cachoeira after the fact, it looked like Kim did the more effective striking. But you know what? Once again, judges, they sometimes see something different than what we see. Once again, always bringing up the debate of how can you improve judging, open scoring, whatever it may be. But that was a fight that was a must-needed win for either Cachoeira, for both Cachoeira and Kim. And Cachoeira gets the win to keep herself in the UFC because she lost that fight. They're definitely letting her go, especially with how she lost the Jillian Robertson fight with the intentional eye poke. Like, we can't have someone like that.
Her, right? I didn't realize that was that girl. Okay.
So that was her. So they kept her on, and she gets the win in a fight she probably needed to win to keep herself in the UFC.
Yeah, I scored it for the Korean, right? When she was Korean?
Yep. She's got Korean, yes.
Yeah, I scored it for her. I thought she won. I thought she just landed way more strikes and was more effective. She wasn't coming forward as much as the Brazilian, but I thought she was landing the better shots. I think it was the elbows, it's because of the damage they caused at the very end when she started leaking like a tap and swelling up. But I think she did enough to get the win for sure. The Korean girl.
I did as well. Unfortunately, judges don't see it that way. Cachoeira got the win as well. The main card featured one of the nastiest cuts I've ever seen in the Arman Sarukian fight against Joel Alvarez with that elbow right in the guard position. And I've seen some nasty cuts in MMA, boxing, whatever, any combat sport, but it looked like a horror movie, like a Michael Myers movie or something coming out of the face of Joel Alvarez. Like, you could have put a Buick in his forehead there with how big that cut was.
Yeah, the ones the apples that graze are the ones usually that do the most damage when they cut you open, right? When you land kind of blunt force, you can still obviously get cut, but it's more trauma. This one, when they just kind of just touch you and they scrape by, they rip you apart. And that was a nasty one, like right on the top, right above the nose there. And yeah, man, heads bleed a lot, and especially when your adrenaline's pumping and your heart's racing and everything's going, 100,000 miles a minute. Yeah, you spew a lot of blood, but yeah, it looked nasty.
Yeah, it definitely did. It's a great win as well for Sarukian. He's now 18-2, and someone we thought that would also probably be in the mix to step in here against RDA, but I guess his manager said it's too quick of a turnaround, and I guess he got a medical suspension from the commission, so it's not logistically feasible at all. But you're 18-2 as a professional, and you haven't lost since your UFC debut to the aforementioned Islam Makachev. I mean, just good things keep rolling for the Armenian.
Yeah, and usually not all commissions, but usually you get a mandatory 7-day suspension, even if you have no injuries or anything. It's just what they do. So that also might have been come into play as well.
For sure, there were a couple of good prospects on this card as well. In Ignacio Bahamondes, who had that third round Bravo choke over Zhu Rong, and Terrence McKinney with a first round rear naked choke, where McKinney was a guy who had 4 fights in 2021, and 3 of them he finished within 30 seconds. So I guess it was great to see him get a little bit more cage time as this fight went a total of 2 minutes and 11 seconds. But that's a guy to really look out for, where he showed he's got power at lightweight and has a solid ground game.
Yeah, man. I the guy that he fought, that Ferez, I remember I trained with him a bit at Alpha Male, and I thought it would be a little bit closer if I actually picked Ferez doing. I thought he'd just kind of outpoint him, outstrike him, use his range. But they started the fight out of a cannon and some crazy scrambles, and then that guy led to his back, and I didn't like the commentators thought I didn't think he had the proper angle to finish the choke, but I guess he was applying enough force and it worked. Obviously got the rear naked. So yeah, man, that guy's kicking off his career in the UFC with the bang for sure, making a name for himself.
Yeah, he's only been in two fights in the UFC, and they've gone a combined 2 minutes and 19 seconds, and the majority of that is this fight, because we all remember his infamous debut in the UFC, a 7-second KO over Matt Frivola, and that's no one to sneeze at, of putting away in just 7 seconds. So, and plus, McKinney's story is amazing. Like, this is a guy that OD'd twice in the same day, like literally, according to what the paramedic said, had died and was brought back to life, and is turning his life around from addiction to showing what you can do on there. And as well, in his MMA career, he fought on the Contender Series back in 2019, lost, and then since then hasn't lost, and is looking like this sensational fighter in just 2 UFC fights, and what he's done to get back to the UFC.
Yeah, man, don't write people off. That's how I get the moral, right? Even so many people, especially in this sport, right, after a loss, it's he's gone, on to the next. You know what I mean? But sometimes that's what needed for some people to kind of rally themselves and kind of dig a little bit deeper or correct the things they're doing wrong. So, yeah, man, it's cool to see.
Definitely is cool to see, and that was pretty much the card that we saw on Saturday. As I said, these fight nights have the early ones at 4:00, they've been great, and the fights have delivered when we're kind of just writing off the card as a whole, and just goes to the point: don't judge a card until you actually see it.
Just I watch every fight card I can possibly, whether that's UFC or Bellator, or I try to catch ones and PFLs here and there. Yeah, man, I just like watching fights that always have to be the big marquee names. And a lot of times, when you have a super stacked card, not always, but sometimes it doesn't deliver, right? Because it's like a good movie. You pump it up, and then you go in there with huge expectations, and you're like, well, that was okay. And then you walk into a movie theater, and you never heard of this movie, watching, you're like, it's amazing, right? So,
yeah,
same type of thing.
But I think more so people are like, the main events have been good on paper, even here with Green filling in. I think that threw an interesting dynamic to Makachev, though he made it look super easy. But I just think when you look at these fighters, it's just a lot of people don't know who's there. And if you follow some of these guys on the regional scenes or them fighting out in other promotions, like, that they're talented. And I think while, the UFC, they had a great year business-wise with their stars, I think this may be the most talented we've seen a UFC roster, period. Like, there are everyone in every weight class is just super talented. Like, there's not a guy that you can really look at this roster like, I don't know if he really belongs in the UFC.
I think every year you're going to have that even more so. I think it's just the evolution of the sport. And I think there's more fighters now. Like, I'm a huge fight fan, and I can't keep up with this shit, and I don't know a lot of these people are fighting, right? It's just because there's so many now. That's just how it is. I mean, it's a good problem because there's so many talented fighters. So it's better for promotions, but yeah, man, that's just how it is. There's no bums anymore in the bigger leagues anyway. It's just everybody's good. Everybody's solid.
Everybody is solid in the UFC. And you know what? In that whole MMA landscape, as we will touch as well on a PFL Challengers from last week, which we haven't really talked about since we were off last week. But before that, that PFL show took place Friday night. Friday afternoon was Bellator 275 from glorious Ireland, where Bellator once again has just made that a nice little home base for them with the Irish MMA scene. And Gegard Mousasi, he defended his Bellator middleweight championship against Austin Vanderford. And I thought Vanderford going into this fight would cause a little bit of problems against Mousasi, though Mousasi is such a veteran, like over 50 pro fights. I didn't expect Mousasi to make it look that easy and really showcase just how good he is. Like, he made Vanderford look like he'd never been in a pro fight before, stuffed a takedown, and then just pounced on him with the ground and pound and got the finish a minute 25 in. I think right now Mousasi's on the run of his career, really showcasing that he's one of the best middleweights in the world. And nice to see he's getting a little bit of respect from a lot of the MMA fan base that maybe didn't really know how good he was, but he's just pretty much made mincemeat out of everyone that he's fought recently in Bellator. And I think he's gonna be champion for a very long time. I don't see anyone touching him at Bellator at 185.
Whoever thinks that real fans know how good he is, and this guy has been around forever, and has beat some of the biggest names in the world and continues to do so. And I think he's probably, one of the best middleweights ever, really, right now. And I would love to see him fight with an Adesanya. That would be cool. Those two together. Yeah,
be the best, but it just doesn't work like that, right?
It's not going to happen, obviously. But yeah, because he's so well rounded, but he's such a vet, man. Like, he just knows how to win as well. With the Vanderford fight, he got hit and he got hurt. You could tell. And then he shot in, and that's, he stopped the takedown. But it was before that what hurt him. And then, once he missed that takedown, I think he just, Mousasi finished him off, and he kind of took his way out of there, really. But yeah, man, he's a legend. I love Mousasi. I remember watching him back in Strikeforce, and he's legit, man. He's an OG.
He is definitely an OG, as we've talked about. Pretty much, fought. Now he's in Bellator. He's fought in UFC, Strikeforce, Dream, even Pride back in the day. He's been a champion in pretty much every promotion he's been in, and just wasn't afforded that opportunity for a UFC title shot. So it's nice to see him just getting a lot of recognition from any level of MMA fan, whether you're a hardcore or even the casuals. I think are starting to come around, and I don't know where you put him right now. I think it's kind of hard to say that he's definitely not where I guess Adesanya is, and I'd love to see that fight. But he's got so much more overall MMA experience, where Adesanya is such a different style. It's just one of those things where, as you said, I'd love to see them fight. It just can't happen. But for Bellator right now, they really need to get some contenders for Mousasi. Like, I don't know who he fights next. Like, a lot of the guys he's fought up are welterweights that have gone up. That's never worked out. And then Vanderford, who I thought would be a good contender, done in a minute 25.
I think he'll end up fighting Johnny Eblen. And he's fighting John Salter. I've seen that. So I think if he gets past Salter, who's a tough test, former title challenger, I think it'll be him next, to be honest.
Do you also see, because I think Mousasi was talking about this earlier today, do you see him moving up to light heavyweight? Because if there's no real contenders for you, if you get past either Eblen or Salter, like you've pretty much cleared out 185. Like, why not try to go for a different weight class?
I mean, he could. A Nemkov or a Corey Anderson would be both tough fights for him for sure. I mean, usually it doesn't work out as well for the guy going up, but not always. But I mean, I would say probably one more title defense before you start thinking about that at least, but we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see what Bellator does, because after the fights were over, I just kept hearing terrible matchmaking from Bellator, and I don't agree with that. I thought Vanderford had proven his worth in Bellator, worked his way up, and obviously he's got some recognition with Paige Van Zandt, who he's with, but I thought he proven himself as a fighter. It's just maybe there's no one else that you want to have fight, and especially maybe taking the fight in Ireland. I don't know. I didn't think it was a horrible matchup. I just think it just showed how good Mousasi is and why there's levels to this game.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think, what was he, like 10, 11-0 before Austin?
Austin was 11-0 when he made the walk to the cage on Friday afternoon.
And he had about, I think it was 5-0 in Bellator, I believe, something around there anyway. So it's not like he just walked in there and got his title shot. He's definitely put some work in, and he's a good wrestler, good ground and pound. That's what his main focus is, and he's a athletic, strong guy. So on paper it could present a problem to Mousasi, but I just think it was the levels and the experience and the skill set overall was just not comparable.
Yeah, exactly. That was, I think, what everyone thought was going to be the difference, and then it ended up being the difference. And on Mousasi going up to light heavyweight, I see it happening. It's not like Mousasi hasn't fought there before. Did it in Strikeforce, did it in the UFC, and why not? If Bellator wants to have that and recognize someone like Mousasi who's on a roll, why not go for it?
I mean, they all do now, double champs, and everybody wants to do it. So.
Yeah, you know what? That's kind of died down a bit, and maybe thankfully, because that was just everyone's goal to be a double champ. It's like, let's win your first title first before we can talk about that. But I don't know. What did you think of this show overall, Josh? Because airing like in the afternoon, I thought was nice for Bellator. I mean, in Canada, it works out great. We just get to watch them on YouTube. Don't have to worry about a network or subscribe to this, but I thought, for how well they moved that card along in Ireland, I thought it was the best live and much better than those tape delayed days that Bellator used to have.
Yeah, man, I thought it was great. I want to go fight there, because that crowd is like no other. To be honest, it just looks like just a wild. That the atmosphere is crazy. So yeah, man, I liked it. It looked like it was a great show. They had some good fights, a couple good bantamweight fights that I watched on there, and. Yeah, dude, I'd love to go fight there. That'd be sweet. And I like the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll stick with this card because yes, you did mention some of those bantamweight fights, and I thought I did catch those. Those were pretty good fights on this card. But the co-main event was women's featherweight. Sinead Kavanagh, Leah McCourt. Kavanagh wins the fight. I don't know how McCourt survived that Kimura attempt in the first round. She must be made of rubber. That was insane. Kavanagh wins the fight, which I thought rightfully so. She should win the fight. But right after she's not even walking out, she's being carried out. They're like, rematch with Cyborg. She's fighting Cyborg right away. And the groans just came from everyone. It's like, we just saw this fight. We don't need to see it right again. I just feel like maybe they're really jumping the gun in Bellator, or there's got to be something going on behind the scenes that we don't know, because that was like the fastest title fight we've ever seen announced in Bellator, and one that we just saw that we don't really need to see again.
Yeah, that's being a little bit quick to call that one, especially that girl probably just blew her knee out. I don't know how bad, so she might be out
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
long time. And they got Kat Zingano fighting in like a couple weeks, and she was talks of being the number one contender. So if she gets another win, and that's a new new blood and a well known name in there, I think that would kind of draw more, and then give Kavanaugh another fight. If she wins another one, then maybe she can warrant a rematch. But yeah, I think that's a bit quick to pull that one right now.
It's just so instant. Like UFC would never do that. Like UFC actually takes time, determines and who's going to get a next title shot or whatever. Bellator, apparently you can get a title fight literally getting carried out of the cage. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt odd considering the circumstances where we saw the fight, unless their plan is to bring it to Ireland with, the Irish fighter fighting for a title who
Maybe.
had, a great fan base behind her. Maybe that's the difference, but I just don't think anyone really was clamoring for that fight. But as you said, Kat Zingano was supposed to fight Cyborg. That didn't happen. She's fighting Pam Sorensen, but that fight looks to be off, as I think Pam Sorensen's
Really?
now hurt. I just saw that like literally before we came on here.
Oh no.
So that fight may not be happening now, and I guess maybe Bellator didn't know that going in. So that's maybe some reason on that. I'm just speculating here, but
Right.
that could be the reason why they went right to Kavanaugh, but she may also be hurt. So maybe a while before we see Cyborg defend that title.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables there. You don't really know until everything's kind of laid out and see what's up. But yeah, I mean, out of those ones, you have, yeah, I would say Kat's probably the front runner, just because I think she's 2-0 in Bellator, or one. Yeah, 2-0 in Bellator, I believe. But she's a big name, right? So I think that one draws the most.
We shall see what happens. I know Bellator's kind of making a full court press to trying to get Kayla Harrison to sign with them,
Yeah,
as some
that
talks
would be
broke down
great.
with Kayla and PFL. That's the one I'm really hoping Bellator finds a way.
Yeah,
Like,
hopefully.
if Bellator's got to back a Brinks truck up on Kayla Harrison's front yard, do it, because I think she adds so much to your promotion, uh, has a lot of options with fights, and just adds another star to Bellator who needs some stars.
I would say that if they signed her, that would be the biggest current women's fight right now. Kat and
100%.
Harrison, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It would do so much wonders for Bellator, I think, and would really just make Bellator the one-stop destination for women's MMA to a certain extent, especially at 145, which,
Yeah.
I mean, the UFC, they have some fights, but not really a division there anymore. And I just think I think Bellator just needs that, another shot in the arm with another star.
Yeah, for sure.
That still really hasn't proven herself, too. There's still like a variable we're not sure about Kayla. Like, if she
Mhm.
goes back to the PFL, good on her. You just beat some girls, win $3 million within 4 years. Good for you. Like, I'm not going to hate on that, but I think
No.
we all want to see her. If legacy's something for her, I think I would love to see her just go to Bellator.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on her mindset, right? If she, like you just said, if somebody's paying me $1 million plus my purses every for the season, and I keep beating these girls that are not on the same level, hey man, you can do that till until you can't. But if you want to kind of just say, okay, I got enough money now, I got enough investments or whatever you did with your money, yeah, kind of step out and still get paid a huge purse. But I got a real challenge now. Yeah, I can see her doing that because I think she's has that mindset, a champion mindset.
Yeah, plus like PFL's gotten a better deal with ESPN for their TV rights, where they're going to be actually on like linear ESPN and not so much worrying about the streaming service. And when PFL announced that deal with like the improved deal with ESPN and re-signing with them, one of the people they had on the front was Kayla Harrison, where it looked like talks are going great, but nothing been decided. Bellator, like I said, they're making a good press for her, and it looks like maybe the momentum's swinging back for Kayla at PFL, but she still hasn't decided. She's still weighing her options, which, if you're Bellator, that gives you a little bit of hope that you can somehow swing her to come on over. But
Yeah.
that's still the hottest free agent out there, I think, in all of MMA right now is Kayla Harrison. Where does she go? And we still got to wait to see how that plays out. But as we stick with this Bellator card here for a bit, you did mention the bantamweight fights, Josh, because Brett Johns took on Khurshid Kakarov wasn't maybe the greatest John's performance, but he did get that finish in the third round, turned it on when he needed to, and ground and pounded out Kakarov. And then the main card started with that Jornell Lugo Brian Moore fight, which it maybe didn't, burn the house down like we thought it would, but it did have
I
its
thought it was
moments.
a great fight, man.
I thought it was a good fight, but I thought it was gonna really pick up and be Rock'em Sock'em Robot style. And Lugo got the win on the scorecards, which I thought was actually the right decision. I had Lugo winning the fight, but to get a win like that on the scorecards in Ireland against the Irish guy, good on him.
It was a good fight. I really enjoyed it. Both guys showcased a lot of good shit. I actually thought Brian Moore pulled it off. Literally, like after I watched him, like this could go anyway. I don't know who they're. Being in Ireland, I was like, I think they're going to give it to Moore because it was very, very close, and there was no robbery either way. I think that was a super close fight. But yeah, very, very good technical. Lugo looked good. Uses his range well. He's got that long jab, nice head kicks, and Brian more of a boxing X. I'm surprised there wasn't a little bit more takedown attempts on either side, more so from the Lugo side. But hey, it was a good fight.
And as we also talked about, Brett Johns had a nice win, so that was his first win in Bellator. So nice for him.
I thought Brett looked good, man. The guy that he fought, I mean, he was 8-0, but he hadn't really beat anybody. And I think it was more so of a striker, and you could tell because once Brent got him down, he could just control completely. And this guy didn't really have an answer for it, like Kershed. That was a good win, and I think a much needed win for Johns for sure. You don't want to go starting the promotion 0-2, right? So.
Yeah, and you know what? I guess we just wait and see where these guys get matched up. Now they've got some wins here. They can move on. This Grand Prix is supposed to be starting soon. I mean, you're probably looking to fight one of those guys or someone at some point because we haven't heard anything about, you having an opponent. And I mean, we know you re-signed with Bellator. Once again, congrats on that. But, you want an opponent. You want to fight as you're now not just relying on being an alternate in this tournament. You want to be active.
Yeah, 100%, bro. They're going to announce something soon for sure. But yeah, as far as opponents, there's a couple more options right there for sure. Those guys getting the wins. But yeah, like I said, the 8 in the Grand Prix, and then I'd say another, the top 15 really, if they had that, they're just all killers really in this division. It's stacked. So no matter what way I look at it, we're fighting some tough dudes for sure.
I do wonder as well, because I was watching one of the Ryzen Trigger cards, one of their kind of their new version where they have a big name main event and guys kind of building themselves, kind of those challengers cards we saw back in the day with Strikeforce. So they did announce there, by April, Japan will end their travel bans for foreigners coming in. So their plan, I guess, going forward is more foreigners to come on through, which is, we all know Bellator and Ryzen kind of have a working agreement. So I think that bodes well for the future of those fights going through, and Bellator fighters going to Japan and Japanese fighters coming stateside. So, which was kind of the plan in the works, anyways, by 2019, and then the pandemic obviously halted that.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I would love that. I would love it to be a kind of like what they did. Petty Mix did it already. He went over there as the Bellator guy and he fought a Risen guy. That'd be really cool. I would like to do that. It was a dream of mine to fight in Japan first. So that would be a bucket list for sure.
Well, Bellator did that thing where they partnered with Ryzen. They had a show on December 29th, and then 2 days later it was Ryzen's New Year's Eve show. And I hope they keep that trend going. Obviously, for the past 2 years, couldn't have that because of a pandemic and travel restrictions that Japan had. But I thought that was a neat little gimmick that Bellator and Ryzen were working out. Kind of had the mix of Ryzen fighters versus Bellator fighters, and then New Year's Eve card, you bring 1 or 2 Bellator bigger names on there. Hopefully we get to see more of that, because I think that's some of the stuff Bellator has that separates them from a PFL or a UFC.
Yeah, I like that shit. That's unique. It's cool. I like seeing the cross promotion, and your guys versus our guys, and have the 2 night. I think it's great, man. I think everybody loves that shit.
Plus, as well, like Bellator, they've got a nice little grasp of Europe with whether it's England, Ireland,
Yeah.
now France. They're trying to make a stronghold with France opening up last year. Why not add Asia into that as well? You want to, make a staple of there. UFC is certainly not going over to Japan and putting on a
Yeah.
card. If they're going over to Asia, they're maybe try Korea or China, where they have big partners and stuff like that. Why not make Japan? Like, if you're not going to come anywhere else in North America, why not make Europe and Asia a stronghold for you?
Yeah, that seems to be like what they're kind of going after. So yeah, I think they will. I think they had plans to do that before, to do more shows there, but yeah, pandemic kind of screwed everything up. But I think, yeah, once this shit's all gone and or lifted or whatever, yeah, I think you'll see that, and I think you'll see the New Year's Eve shows again. Hopefully anyway.
I hope so too. I think it was a big winner for Bellator, and I think it's just exciting for a lot of the fighters to go over
Yeah,
there and be a part of that. Where that New Year's Eve week is such a special time in
no
Japan,
pride,
and mixed martial
no
arts come.
pride.
Yeah, exactly. Like Pride, the rise of New Year's Eve cards are, excellent, carrying on that tradition. And it's just such a different atmosphere. Like, those shows have been such important to that Japanese scene for decades, even.
Yeah.
So why not, carry that trend over? But as we switch over from Bellator to the PFL Challengers, Josh, I don't know if you've seen any of the Challenger shows. First of all, have you seen any of the Challenger shows?
I just seen like highlights of it. I actually didn't get a chance to sit down and watch them, but yeah, how are they? How are they doing?
Okay, so PFL. What I like about the Challengers cards is that they're one weight class per episode. So I like that. They have some good talent that they have scouted out, and that they're trying to invest in their own talent that they have. And PFL has been lucky that a lot of the stars that have broken through are ones that they've had be their own. They're not the ex-UFC guys. Like, look at Ray Cooper III. He's the male face of the promotion, and he's a PFL purely guy. And you're trying to continue that trend. But my God, these shows are so long, and they don't need to be this long. They're 4 fights.
Yeah.
I don't know why PFL feels the need to drag these shows out. It's almost like they know now that's a problem, and they're just doing it to patronize the fan or anything like that. But my problem with these shows, and we've talked about this with the Contender series, if you have a sweet finish, you're pretty much getting a contract. Doesn't really say anything about how you can fight in distance or duration or what you've done to get up here. But that's just the issue I have. It's like, flying knee, back-to-back shows for the 2 weeks. 2 flying knee KOs or knee KOs. Those guys have gotten contracts. I think the one this week in the welterweight tournament in Al Sawai, who is a guy that's fought in Brave and has only got 1 loss on his career as a former Brave welterweight champion. Like, okay, he is fine, but he pretty much got that contract because he had a knee finish.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about it before. It's not always the better fighter that's getting the contract. That's why I was never a huge fan of those things. I mean, it's just all very subjective of, what they're looking at that day and their mood that day as well. You know what I mean? So, but I guess that's how it is. You know what I mean? And so if it gives them a potential opportunity, then I guess it's good. But yeah, because you see some guy that is not very good at all, but he runs out there and gets a flying knee over actually probably a decent dude. And then you see him later kind of get exposed, right? And that's the problem that you have when you get something like that.
It's happened on the Contender series where you had a guy had like a flying knee or a spinning knockout kick. It's fantastic. It's great, but I don't know if we sign someone just based on that alone. It's like you're a one-hit wonder in music. Like, you had a great song, but are you a great musician per se? Can you have the longevity? And some of those guys pretty much haven't.
I guess
the problem
more stock would have to go into like their prior resume. You know what I mean? And you have to look at these guys and see where they fought, who they fought, how well they've done. And then you can kind of, if they go and do something crazy, then it's kind of warranted because of their skill set than the resume they put together. But if it's some guy that's 5-0, but he's fought all guys are 0-8, you know what I mean? And he goes out there and gets it, you don't really know, right? Because he's beating up these cans, so that's the kind of gamble you take.
Yeah, and part of it too with the PFL, it's not like where Dana White comes out and he's going to sign, 5 fights, he's going to sign 4 fighters or all the fighters. It's technically just one contract, and it's based on a celebrity panel, which has been the past 2 weeks, Tyron Woodley, Ray Lewis, and Jeremy Piven. So, and Jeremy Piven's not even, Ari Gold basically is, and he's not even there. He's at home watching. Plus the fan vote, and the fan vote always kind of works out with the judges panel. So they're not really taking into consideration the stock of a fighter for what they've done to get there. They're basing it off that performance alone to getting a contract, and that's just where I have a big issue with it.
Yeah, man. Because what the hell do they, other than Tyron Woodley, he knows, but like other than that, like what the hell does Ari Gold? I love him, but what is the hell does he know about it? You know what I mean? Like I guarantee you, he does not know what's happening in the intricacies on the ground, and where somebody's got a dominant position and the sweeps or they point leg kicks. I bet you they don't accumulate leg kicks nearly as much as headshots landing, things like that, right? Like they just don't really know because they're not trained fighters or trained in the sport, to my knowledge, anyway.
Yeah, and I also wanted more from the judges. Like the judges pretty much just love every fighter. There's not like, oh, he could do this better or what. It's pretty much they're great. Everyone's great. No one is bad. Everyone is great. Like if you're gonna make a show spin off into like American Idol, you know what the key to American Idol was? Simon Cowell, because he literally said what he thought and was negative. Mm-hmm. He wasn't lovey-dovey to everyone. You need a judge here or there that's gonna be like that. Let it be Ari Gold, because as you said, he's not really a fighter. He let him be the one to love everything that someone does, but let Tyron Woodley be a little, have serious constructive criticism, and he never really does.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess everybody's scared to say shit nowadays in this society. You know what I mean? It's just, that's probably one of the problems that's showing its head now. But yeah, we got to have more real talk. Real talk works. Constructive criticism works when it's warranted, right? So need more of that,
especially for fighters that are like trying to grow and learn from an experience like that, right? I think you'd like to hear some of that from, especially Tyron Woodley. Like, sure, his career's gone a different route, but he is one of the best welterweights of all time and a former UFC champion. So I'd like to hear some of that. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on the PFL. Like last week's fights were actually really good. All fights ended in a finish. One of them was a scary eye injury to Mark Martin, where like his orbital bone broke and like his eye started to come out of the socket, really nasty. But I can't believe also on these shows, in the welterweights at least, we had like the main event was a catch weight at 177 pounds. Like you're trying to get a contract here, and you're showing up with 177, 176 pounds. And one of the fights that happened, Corey Cuppy stepped in literally day of and made championship weight. To me, he at least should be thrown a bone to like be a showcase fight or something on a PFL going forward, because that's impressive when the guys in your main event didn't even make weight.
Yeah, that guy must have been a 55er then, maybe.
They're both welterweights.
Yeah, I know, but if he's just stepped in on a day's notice and made 70, unless he just cut a shit ton of weight that night and made it, but he just doesn't flow very heavy, right? Like some guys.
Corey Cuppy naturally is a middleweight, actually.
Really? Oh wow.
He's a 6'5", he's 6'5" welterweight.
Wow. Well, credit to him then. He must have killed himself to get down there.
Well, credit to him though. Like he's given an opportunity. He not only shows up, makes championship level weight, where the guys in the main event who are natural welterweights, one of them, as I said, former champion in Brave, which is sure maybe not one of the well-known promotions, but a very respectable promotion.
Yeah.
And he showed up 7 or 6 pounds overweight.
Yeah. Well, it's just I'd get rid of him. Unprofessional.
He got a contract.
Oh my God. Again, that's got to be going more towards his stock of his resume before, which I get, but like, yeah. And I hope they find this shit out of him. Lost half his purse.
Yeah, I think there was a pretty big fine for that, and I would hope there would be with the weight miss, and there was another weight miss as well. I think in the first fight, guy showed up at 173 pounds for the 170-pound weight division. So guys missed weight here, but PFL they just moved on. I guess they could only get one guy to fill in and help out due to a fighter pulling out due to an injury.
I guess. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, there's a million good welterweights out there that are looking to, make a name. And so it's not like they're hurting can't find talents. I don't know. That's just a matchmaking issue there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how these continue to grow, if they make any changes, if we get some new judges out there, because I'm expecting more celebrity judges with how many celebrities have invested into the PFL. Expect a Kevin Hart to be shown on screen, or a Wiz Khalifa, who I would not be surprised even at some point this year he has a fight in the PFL, as he's been training MMA. So do not be surprised if that happens at some point this year. But so far, we've just had those three judges in Ari Gold, Jeremy Piven, Ray Lewis, and Tyron Woodley. But I'd be definitely remiss, especially with this week. Two subjects you're trying to jam them in. Obviously, UFC pay-per-view this weekend, Josh, UFC 272. The rare non-title main event, which I'm very thankful for. Like, it's not that I wouldn't like a title, but we don't need to create a title out of thin air. Like, if you got a good grudge and you're a high-level fighter, why do they can fight? They can sell pay-per-views themselves, and that's where we're at with Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, and what should be a really interesting fight.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped for this one. We got BTC this weekend.
Yes,
we'll start that. I'm excited to call that for those fights. I think it'd be a great card, but I'm hoping we get out just in time to see this, because I do want to catch it. Yeah, man. It's got everything you want, man. Stylistically, the names and the backstory. It just kind of checks all the boxes of what you want for a big kind of blockbuster fight. Where, yeah, man, this is a good one. I don't know. I'm probably gonna say I'm leaning towards Colby to win. I'm gonna say Colby by decision, but Masvidal could put him out. I don't know, man. That's a good one. But yeah, if I did make a pick, I would lean towards Colby.
Well, what makes it interesting as well is the betrayal aspect of this, where Colby pretty much was tarnished and banned from American Top Team for some of his comments that he made about Jorge Masvidal and Dustin Poirier and other American Top Team fighters. And as well, the aspect where you're fighting someone that you've known so well personally, training-wise, you know their style. They've obviously evolved a little bit as they're run, both what they've done in the cage and personality-wise, where they're now one of the more both polarizing figures in all of MMA, and now they will throw down. So
I wonder if there'll be any. Go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead. You first.
I wonder if there'll be any like big brotherism. You know what I mean? And who if Masvidal has that mental capacity over Colby, and maybe he sees him as a big brother. They kind of came up together and they're like roommates, best friends, because that may have an effect in there. You never know. That slightest little edge of this guy used to beat me up, could kind of put a little seed of doubt in there, and then that could be all the difference. Right? So that's another interesting aspect of it too, just because they do know each other so well. Yeah, man, I'm pumped to see it.
It's also what also makes this fight interesting is it's guys that are probably not going to ever get another title shot, especially with Usman as the champion. But if you're Masvidal, like, you really need a win. You haven't won since that controversial stoppage of the Nate Diaz fight for the BMF title back at UFC 244 in the year that really broke through to the career renaissance here of Jorge Masvidal. Is insane 2019. Like, okay, you lose the first Usman fight, you literally cut like 15 pounds in a day, basically, or whatever, and flew to Abu Dhabi for it. Then you get knocked out in a way we hadn't seen you get knocked out. Like, he really needs this win against Colby Covington to really reestablish himself as the top welterweight that he is. And I think that sometimes that makes not only the spark of who he's fighting against, but that as well kind of being thrown out there. Like, I think Masvidal's got his back up against the wall, and that's usually where we see the best Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah, man, that's true. Yeah, you don't want to go, 3 in a row, right? And yeah, especially to somebody that you hate so much, apparently, right? So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he comes out. He might be at a point now, and it's not about wins and losses as much anymore. Now it's about like making as much money as you can and utilizing your big name and making a big splash. But with that, you can't keep losing. It's like the McGregor effect, right?
Exactly.
You gotta win. You gotta win some, because if you just continue to lose, that flair will go. So yeah, it definitely needs a win for sure, man.
Exactly. You can't be calling yourself the BMF or this elite super UFC pay-per-view star if you're 0-3 in your last 3 fights and haven't won a fight in 3-4 years now since 2019. Plus, is like the thing is just seeing a little snippets of an interview that they both did together on ESPN. It's like Masvidal's really fired up for it, and Colby just buying into the character that it is, just pushing buttons. Like that also may play a favor in the factor of Colby, where he's just mentally into this character that he can just drown out the noise.
Yeah, and when you have that anger going in there, if he starts messing with him a bit, and Jorge just loads up that extra little bit, that might be the difference to time a takedown or time a shot or move out of the way. You know what I mean? Like when you really want to kill somebody, you load it up too much, and it's usually slower and it's usually pushed more, and you kind of lose that technique that we all train to do and just have that pop and snap and fast, right? But when you have that anger inside and you let it kind of control you, yeah, it does affect your game. So we'll see if he can keep it under wraps.
I don't know. I'm very interested in this fight as you. I'm also more interested in the Thursday press conference where it's just gonna be like Jerry Springer. Like you're gonna need security. Steve Wilkos needs to be out there to separate these guys, especially Masvidal. Like Masvidal seems like at any moment he's willing to jump across the table and try to rip Colby's tongue out.
yeah, probably right, man. It'll be something like that, I'm sure. But whatever. I'm sure they'll want that because it'll hype up the fight even more, right?
I think it'll do very good pay-per-view business for a card that doesn't have a title, and hopefully that changes the UFC's mentality on I've got to have a title in every main event. Like, right. You don't necessarily always need that. Like, sometimes great fights just sell themselves.
Yeah, you don't always need a title. They put it out there just because then it's the world champ. You know what I mean? It's nice, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Like you said, this is a perfect example of a fight that does not need a title, and it'll probably do well in some of other title fights.
Definitely than some of the other titles, especially like last year that Usman Burns fight. I'm sure this will like double the business of that pay-per-view from last February, as we hear early in March. So, obviously it sucks, as we talked about, losing the co-main event of Dos Anjos and Fiziev. But you know what? Now the co-main event, as for now, unless they get RDA an opponent, Edson Barboza, Bryce Mitchell. I mean, that's a pretty good fight at featherweight.
Yeah, the classic, more striker versus grappler. Yeah, man, that guy's a big Barboza fan. I always have been. That Bryce Mitchell, when he fought Feely, it really impressed me with the way he's able to take Feely down and control him down there. Because I've trained with Feely, man, and he's tough to do that too. So that should be a good one.
I'm excited to see the biggest test here for Mitchell against someone like a Barboza. And Mitchell's stock has really risen, not only for what he's done in the cage, but his rap album. Josh, have you heard any of his rap album, especially the hit track Darkensaw?
No.
This guy can rap. I'm actually not kidding. Like he's got bars. He's better than some of the mumble rappers we have today.
Well, I'm better than some of the mumble rappers we have today.
Oh. MC Gentleman here.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I've not heard it, but yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, and Kevin Holland on the card against Cowboy Oliveira, kind of a bounce back fight for both guys, really kind of needing a win, but more so Holland, especially after his insane 2020 where he had 5 wins and then went pretty much 0 in 2021. So, and as well, Kevin Holland back at welterweight here after the run at middleweight.
Yeah, we'll see how if that kind of plays a factor, whether it's cutting too much weight or, we'll see if you put too much size on and try and go back down, your body just might not fluctuate properly, right? So we'll see.
Yes, and then obviously this card's being sold on the main event, which we've touched on, and we just still got to wait and see because technically RDA still could be on this card. It is, as we're doing the show, Monday, still some time, hopefully, to get someone that's been around in shape, and definitely in and around what this show's in Las Vegas for UFC 272. So hopefully it works out for RDA, as we said.
Yeah. I hope. I'm sure they could. I don't know, man. It's tough. We'll see. Hopefully, though. Yeah.
I hope it works out for him, just because he's such a tough, durable legend, really a legend of lightweight that had a title run and missed out on that McGregor fight, and just how much the MMA world's flipped out, where he breaks his ankle and then Nate Diaz gets the Conor fight, and literally MMA is a totally different sport from the one he would have been in had that fight at 196 back in 2016. But before we get out of here, Josh, obviously, as you mentioned, BTC this Saturday, BTC 14 Clash. Canadian MMA, it's really getting hot with a unified show Friday, our show this Saturday, and then there's a BFL show next Thursday. So the Canadian MMA scene is really starting to pick up again. But BTC 14 main evented by Adam Asenza, returning to the BTC cage for the first time in a number of years now, since the pandemic was a thing. Won some championships down in the States, taking on making his North American debut, Kazuma Maruyama, coming from the legendary Pancrase promotion.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped for it. It's good to be back and have an audience again, and have calling fights like used to do. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, it should be a good card. And Adam always brings it, man. He's one of the top guys in Canada. We'll see if this is his time to, maybe this is the fight to punch his ticket and get a contract with a big promotion, whether it be UFC or Bellator or whatever. Yeah, man, I'm really stoked for it. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of fights on the card that I'm really, really looking forward to.
I mean, it's going to be, I guess, nice for you as a bantamweight to see the semifinals of this bantamweight tournament. You missed the quarterfinals, as you weren't there for that one, unfortunately, gearing up for your upcoming fight in Bellator that you picked up that win. But now you get to see the next generation of bantamweights, where you've seen two of them fight before, but with the tournament at stake, it just adds an extra layer of excitement. And the fights are really good.
Yeah, for sure. I've trained with some of these guys, and then we've called some. I missed the last one, but yeah, it definitely is like the next gen, for sure. Yeah, you got the Atmay brothers, who are looking really, really good. They're just very, very sharp, technical, composed, and they're very much more composed beyond their years, I think. Ariel Zuniga, who's like the underdog, that comes in there and might just rattle some cages and surprise some people. And then Vinny Diaz, who's trained with him at Niagara Bunch, and very, very good grappler, great wrestling. So yeah, those two matchups will be really good.
I'm very excited to see how these all play out. Anytime there's a tournament involved, that excites me. That's the base of MMA. And just four really good bantamweights going on. Two of them are brothers, but they're going to be names you're going to be hearing about for a long time in the sport of mixed martial arts. Same with, Vinny Diaz, as you mentioned, a well-known grappler, but really putting the whole pieces together. And Ariel Zuniga, who, he may be the underdog in this fight, but in his fight against Albar Atma, but this guy hits like a ton of bricks, and he's stepped up his game training with Bazooka Joe.
Yeah, he's improving everywhere, and he has that tenacity. All those fights, even ones he's lost, he's just always there, and he's always swinging, and he won't quit. That's for sure. So, yeah, that's what makes it interesting.
Plus, we get to see Coach Hill in action at BTC 14 as
right.
One of your students is making his pro MMA debut in Liam Gallagher.
Yeah, man, I'm super pumped. We've been pushed back a few times with fights falling through, but yeah, he's ready. 5-0 amateur for his pro debut here. He's a bantamweight, but this fight's going to be at featherweight. Unfortunately, just because, again, his opponent pulled out, and we didn't really have many options. It was either this, we wait again for another 3-4 months, or we fight. So but that's all good. He's ready. And actually, I don't even know if you know this, but right before we got on this, I was talking to our matchmaker, Mr. Beavers, and I got another guy stepping in on short notice, Gino. Galfard is fighting main ledger now. It's yeah, so 2 guys on the card. So
So
I'm
two guys. So Coach Hill squared. So two fights
yeah.
for you to work the corner. Okay, well, did not know that. Well, that's good to know. And well, that's exciting. Good to see your guys get in there and get some opportunities to step in, and happy to see Gino get an opportunity as well and add another fight to this card, which is already a big card. Plus, the show's in London, and Gino is from London, so
Right.
a lot of friends and family.
Works out. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
And as I said, it's a big weekend for Canadian MMA. Like that, I don't know if you've seen that unified card, Josh, but it's a really good unified card. Kyle Preplich, Shane Campbell, main event. That's a really good fight. At return of Ryan Ford, an OG of the Canadian MMA landscape. I spoke with him a couple weeks ago. That interview is now up on MMA Empire. But I mean, this is a guy that's just excited to get out and fight. And I was like, why did you come back to MMA? He's like, I kind of missed getting kicked and whatever. I was like, okay. But you know what? That's just his fighter mentality. And it's one I'm really excited to see what he can do stepping back in and with a whole new generation looking at it.
Yeah. I remember I fought on a card with him. I fought out in Aggression MMA out west back in 2011 or something like that. He was the main event and I was a co-main, but like he always brings a huge following there, man. People come to watch him fight. So I expect the same thing now, even more so with all the boxing that he's done. Yeah, I'm excited to see his return to MMA, see how he does.
There's also a really good featherweight fight on that card. Guy we called his last fight, Lucas Neufeld taking on Neil Anderson. This is the step up once again in competition for Lucas, who looks to make that run to hopefully getting a Contender Series opportunity here in 2022.
Yeah, and I like his progression, how he's doing it. He's not just sitting there fighting chumps. He's taking a little step up each time, and he's getting better and better each time, and he's showcasing that. So this is another step up that Anderson is very good. So yeah, this would be a huge win for him, or a huge win for Anderson over a guy like Lucas who's coming up. So yeah, man, those 3 fights right there you just mentioned, all bangers.
Plus, the beauty of the unified cards, they start at 10 p.m. Eastern time because they are taking place out west. So it's a busy night. If you have Fight Pass, there's like 4 or 5 shows on at the same time due to some events getting moved around. And you know what? That unified card is one that definitely is one you need to check out. And as I said, that BFL card, which got moved back in its own right, that's a card to look out for, especially, Bobby Poulter's a prospect that's going to be on that card. And then the main event for the interim BFL lightweight championship, Dario Sinagoga taking on Kyron Cameron. So Canadian MMA, it's getting some good looks. Plus, I just saw out east, the FLA, that Fight League Atlantic, they have 2 shows announced as restrictions in Nova Scotia, or out east at least, are pretty much over come March 19th.
Yeah, good, man. Good. Enough of this. Drop all of this shit, all of these mandates. But yeah, that's awesome. It's good to see because it just more fights, the better, more shows, the better. It's good to see kind of sprucing back up again because it was dead for a while.
But Canadian MMA, it's one of those things. It looks like it's done, and it just rises up like the Undertaker and just finds a way to keep on going. And it's good to see it. Now it looks like their prime. The scene here in Canada is looking to have. It's one of its best years in 2022 with all these promotions going. And even with us at BTC, like the most shows we ever plan on having. Yeah, like 6 shows. Like it's crazy. Awesome. It's great.
It is great. Yeah, I love that, man. Busy year, and more opportunities for guys. More shows. You don't have to wait 6 months to fight again or more. So yeah, it's awesome.
It is awesome, Josh. And with that, we'll wind this episode down here of Jason and the Gentleman. I'll see you this weekend in London, Ontario for BTC 14 Clash. And with that, we'll wind it down. We'll be back next week to break down all the happenings of mixed martial arts. And we look ahead to next week. So for my broadcast partner, the gentleman Josh Hill, I'm Jason Hagholm. Peace out. We'll see you all next week.